I spent 10 years mastering this one opening. It's called Philidor defense, Old Indian defense. The title doesn't matter. It starts with the move d6 against everything. It's so universal that you can play it in your very next game, regardless of what your opponent is gonna play. I became an international master thanks to this opening, and now hundreds of my students use it in their games, and they forgot about opening pain, and they know exactly what to do in the middle game. In this video, I'm gonna share with you exactly how it works from start to finish. So you start with d6, you don't care what they are doing. In this case, our opponent is playing some kind of English opening, but we play knight f6, and next we are gonna play e5. We play against 1700 rated opponent, our subscriber here, so let's see how it goes. g3, yes, this is one of the possible ways. I think we haven't had it properly in the playlist so far, so I have an entire playlist on this channel about this opening. I cover all possible variations, so you know what to do according to what your opponent plays. Basically, our setup is the same, but of course there are some specific nuances in each different game. I also have an entire program which allows you to build a full, holistic, lifetime opening repertoire both for white and black. The link would be in the description, and it's based on this opening for black. Read what people share, their stories, how this program transformed their chess. It's not just about openings, it shifts the entire perspective. Your understanding of chess is on a completely different level afterwards, and believe me, you will not want to go back. All right, knight to e2. So once we have achieved e5, if they are not attacking us too much, what we want to do is play this move d5 and get the full control of the center. Why not? If they are not actively playing for it, then we can be the one. It's like we are playing white here. Yes, they can create a few difficulties for our pawn structure, but hopefully we are going to be able to defend. Like right now, we are just threatening d4. That would be horrible for our opponent. He would need to spend a lot of time. He loses his space, and it's not great. But if he plays d4, well, in this case, I think we can even take on c4 as one of the options. But normally, we just play e4. And then we have a beautiful pawn structure here. We control absolutely everything from the very beginning of the game. As black, we are in the driver's seat. Even though our opponent, like what he's doing is very reasonable, he's playing very strong moves. b3. Yeah, so this bishop is going to b2, where it feels like it's going to be strong, but I think the opponent didn't really think about our moves. Like, what is our idea? Because I don't think he wanted to see this d4 move coming with a tempo. So that means not only we improve our position, not only we get a lot of space, but also instead of going ahead with his development, he has to waste time now. Right? Because this knight is hanging. That means he would need to spend another tempo on it. And you remember the golden principle, one piece, one move, that allows you to develop every single one of your pieces as fast as possible. This way, he's not going to achieve that. And moreover, we could potentially play d3, and he's going to spend even more time, and we are going to get even more space. If that, of course, would be great for our position. We will think about it. But at least having such opportunities is always great. Yes, make sure that you don't blunder your stuff, like, I don't know, maybe knight d4 for some reason would have been possible. For example, if this rook would be on e1 and then my bishop would be hanging. So you never make a move, doesn't matter how great it seems to be, without thinking what your opponent can do in response. But this opening just removes your opening pain entirely. You always know what to do. It's universal, so it's not like you need to remember to do this if your opponent plays e4 and this if he plays d4. You literally play the same setup. Then it's not mainstream, so your opponent sees this position maybe once out of 100, whereas you play it every single time. And if you are smart and you analyze your games, you know exactly what you have done wrong, and now you play stronger with every single game. It also saves you so much time, as you know what to do in the opening. You know the middle game plans. you're just saving that time for the later stage of the game where it would actually matter a lot. All right, knight to e4. Does it create any threats? Well, it's not. It's attacking the knight, but it's fully protected, no problems. So what do? I can take it and then play bishop h3. In the opening, you always want to achieve 3 goals. You want to fight for the center, which we are doing here very actively. This pawn is great. You want to develop every single one of your pieces, and you want to make sure your king is safe. The king is safe, but we still haven't developed all of those pieces. Bishop g4 is interesting to create a pin here and threaten this move d3, just winning a piece. But I think he's gonna play d3 himself, and that's, yeah, tells me maybe I want to play d3 myself. That also has drawbacks, so yeah, it's always a trade-off in chess. Another plan is to take and play bishop h3, attacking the rook. He goes here. What do I do next? Knight d7. He takes bishop f6. Okay, that's too much for you, sorry about that. But I like it because I bring more and more stuff into the game. I create more and more threats for the opponent, which means it's tough for him to play. The chance that he's gonna blunder something increases the more threats you create for him. And at the same time, I do something really useful. I do something that is creating problems for him. Although I do realize that he could, after rook e1, he could have played knight f4, and then I would need to spend one more tempo. Instead, he plays that. He tries to exchange my active piece, which is interesting, but it also doesn't develop his new pieces, like rook to e1 would. So again, knight d7, I think it works, because knight d4, there is a horrible, horrible pin here. Bishop b2, yes, but my knight goes away, and then I'm just winning the knight. So knight d7 works. Check your opponent's opportunities. Start with checks and captures. Every single time, just checks and captures. It would save you from 99% of all of the blunders you make. Can my opponent give me a check? Can my opponent capture something? But if he can, don't stop there. Check what's going to happen next. Maybe you have very active opportunities. And what do you start with? Checks and captures. And the third step is threats. And in this case, yes, we have a threat, which is very, very horrible. And you can continue the variation even more a little bit. I understand it might get tough, but usually you try to calculate at least 3 moves ahead, or until nobody has those crazy active opportunities, like checks, captures, and threats. And that should help you in like the vast majority of the situations. Okay, he plays d3. I thought that this is not so great because that pawn would always be under attack. Like, we are playing as black, but we totally have the initiative now. This is fantastic. I like to place my knight on c5. This is like the best possible square you can imagine for a knight. But you never make a move without thinking what your opponent can do in response. If I play it immediately, I gave the opportunity for my opponent to play b4 and get rid of my knight. So there is no point of like finding a good place for your piece, going there if your opponent can just get rid of you in one move. So what to do, how to stop that move? Of course, I play a5. I stop that move, and now knight c5 is ready. Remember that he still cannot take the d4 pawn, although what I realize now, he can threaten to do it after bishop b2, and after I play knight c5, he is gonna take it with the bishop, which is a little bit annoying. I don't have a solution. I think I can start with bishop f6, and yes, he can take it, but I'm gonna take it, and then knight c5. This guy is hanging, and the pawn behind that is also hanging. The problem is, yeah, not worse, which is great as black. You equalize the position. This is the main goal of the opening. But I'm also not better, probably, because he doesn't have like this d3 pawn right now is a weakness. Yeah, I should have thought about bishop b2 before playing a5. Like, if I can make 2 moves in a row here, knight c5 and bishop f6, everything is great, and I'm just much better. Fortunately, I'm not in time. I can play c5, and that actually makes this bishop stupid. From that perspective, that feels like a very interesting opportunity. Let's play it. Yes, it has a drawback that this d5 square becomes available for his knight, but of course I'm not going to allow him to go there. I'm going to play knight f6 and control that square. And then I'm going to even attack it. From the perspective of this bishop coming to b2, maybe it's good that I played a5. First, it stops the move b4. Even here, like if you imagine this pawn back on a7, he could play b4, and then once I take, he takes there. that pawn is much more important. He now has a beautiful bishop controlling everything, especially this diagonal. He can attack and try to give me a checkmate. But as is, this bishop is completely stupid. He's doing nothing. And my move a5 helps a lot with that. Okay, now knight f6, I definitely don't want to see that guy there. So, whenever your opponent makes a move, the best thing you can do, stop for 1 second. Forget about all of your plans and think, what is the idea behind that move? At least 40% of all of your time in chess, think about your opponent's opportunities. Now knight d5 is not possible. Maybe someday I might even think about g5, but honestly it's not necessary to weaken my king that much. The center is pretty open. No, I have an easy way to attack the bishop with the knight with the bishop. Okay, queen f3. That is very reasonable. I like this move. The queen is attacking, the queen is controlling all of the light squares. I should do the same. Place my queen over here, controlling the light squares. Maybe I want to play a4. If he is like too active in the center, maybe first, of course, rook e8 to fight for this open file. But a4 is interesting. Sometimes I want to play a3, but honestly, I don't like it because his bishop is more active here anyway. Sometimes I want to create a weakness there and open up the a file, especially if this rook goes away. Then a4 becomes very interesting. Yes, now after rook to e1, I really like the move a4. As if I can get to a2, first I'm gonna do it with the tempo, second, my rook would be incredibly active. But I think there is a problem, there is a tactical variation that my opponent might have prepared. If I play a4, he goes b4. Of course I can take it, but then he can take on d4, and initially I thought, well, that's not a problem, I can just take it. But he played rook e1, and this bishop is hanging in the end of the day. So this is his idea. I mean, he might not have seen all of that, but it seems like it's his idea, and you always have to think, what has changed in the position? What was the rook not doing on a1 that it is doing on e1? Well, it's attacking the bishop, but what has it changed? Does it matter in some variations that that bishop might be hanging? Yes, it does, in that line. So instead, I want to bring another piece into the game, activate the rook loves open files, and that move a4 is still on my agenda. Right? Now b4 is not going to be a possible answer. I'm gonna just take it, and otherwise I want to take it and play rook a2. Judging by his move rook to e1 and leaving that rook on f1, I assume he wants to attack there, but it's very difficult because there are a lot of pieces in front of your pawn, and even if you push it, I'm not sure you achieve much, you just weaken your king. So I don't like it. I would have played rook to e1. Maybe he thought that rook is not doing on a1 anything anyway, but it kind of stops my plan, and now it doesn't. So sometimes, even if your piece seems to be useless in terms of the attack, it might be very useful in terms of the defense. Consider that too. Objectively, probably he still should like double his rooks along the e file, and then it doesn't make a huge difference. Then the question is, can I still go for it, or would it be too risky considering that this e-file is opened and of course it's very important? The alternative would be just to play bishop d6, exchange the rooks and be on a safer side. So you see, it's not like I am crushing from the opening. Sometimes I am, but if my opponent is not stupid, he's making reasonable moves. As a result, he gets a position which is not better. Like, look at this bishop. You're not dreaming about such a position as white. But at the same time, he's very solid. I'm not winning immediately. But this opening gives you a very solid, clear, and universal plan you can use every time you forget about getting into trouble in the opening, like ever, unless you are making some stupid blunders. It's always important, regardless of the opening you play. But you know what to do. And you even know your middle game plan, especially once you go through more videos in the playlist, through my 10-day opening mastery. That should help you a lot to understand those ideas. This opening is not about memorizing the variations, it's about understanding the key ideas and then going for it. Yes, I really like my opponent is playing very logically, and his plan is clear step by step. Yeah, so now even though I like that idea for me, I think that might be very dangerous over here. Immediately, I don't see a threat, right? That bishop is protected. Very important that now b4 is still not a move, so I'm in time to take there and bring my rook. Doesn't create threats though, right? Because the bishop is protected, and once I go away with the bishop, there is no rook to take it back. So from that perspective, I don't like it that much. So maybe I just play bishop d6, rook e1. Well, not achieving much, unfortunately. Another idea my opponent might have is to play knights to d5. Attacking here, and if I take, his queen is very good on d5, also creating some pins. I honestly don't like it. Maybe I shouldn't have exchanged the guys like that, or played c5, or somewhere I made some inaccuracies, because it feels like he's feeling comfortable here. b5, might that be a source of counterplay? I always don't like that my bishop is hanging. Maybe just bishop f8 then, and b6 to make sure it's not hanging. In the end of the day, he still has a problem with this bishop, which is not great. Although it's not like my bishop is that much better, if I'm honest, because of my pawns on the dark squares. It doesn't have that huge perspectives. And that move knight to d5, it's so annoying. It's not only threatening that knight, it's also threatening this fork. And if I take his rook, well, maybe right now is a good moment to do it. Because if he plays knight d5, I can take it. And he cannot take back with the queen, because the rook is hanging. And if he takes back instead, then I'm going to control the e file. I think this is the last and good chance to play bishop d6. Maybe I just exchange that bishop. I mean, if you have all of your pawns, or all of the key pawns on the dark squares, and you have a dark squares bishop, it's not a good combination. But if I can just exchange it against the knight, my knight can be very tricky, like later in the game, he can come and create those threats, and his bishop is going to be helpless to defend it, right? Because it's a different color. If he allows me, if he just plays rook e1 and just I take everything and exchange, I think the combination of the queen and the knight would be very strong, would create a lot of problems for him. Yes, rook e1, so we are headed into that endgame. Just need to make sure I don't blunder stuff. I mean, in the end, I feel if I take and exchange the rooks, he's gonna come to c7, like my queen would be on e8, and he plays queen c7. I do have queen c6 check, and that would exchange the queens. But then, yeah, those pawns, that king is coming forward. Now he's threatening knight d5, so if I want to take the knight, this is basically my last chance. So let me do that, and then I can think what are my options. I don't like that I don't have a luft for the king. Like, you always want to make sure that you don't blunder any back rank issues, even if you see it, but it might limit your opportunities. So you want just to make sure that you have this place for the king to go, it's safe, and then you can focus on attacking and creating problems for your opponent. After takes, I do have queen c6 check, just not sure if it helps me much. He can play queen f3 back, and then if I exchange, he's closer with his king. Remember that in the endgame, you want to activate your king, you want to go forward. It's really your attacking piece, and you use it to create problems for the opponent. So what do I do then? Maybe I just make a luft for my king for now, right? Just h6, if he takes, I'm happy to take it back. And then, if we exchange everything and he plays queen c7, I can create counter threats. I can play queen e2, like imagine this queen over here. Then I can play knight g4, attack and all of that. That feels really annoying for him. So I like the move h6. You're just making useful moves for yourself, and then you're more prepared for the fight, for the situation where it would really be very important. Your opponent would really come after you. But I wouldn't be afraid of checks anymore because my king can just escape, no problem. Bishop goes to a3. I don't like this move. Like, first of all, you are not even create a threat if you're careful, because I have that queen c6 threat, and then I'm gonna just take it. Secondly, if I just play b6, what on earth your bishop is doing on a3? Basically, you're just provoking me to play b6, but I think I want to play b6 anyway. That makes my pawn structure more solid. I only have this pawn to care about. If I defend that, then everything is great. So, yeah, I don't mind playing b6. Also, if I play a4 one day, which might be interesting, like takes and just play a4, maybe it was possible immediately, then this bishop all of a sudden might be hanging. There is an advantage for him as well, though, that after a4 he can play b4, so maybe a4 not that great, as then he's gonna put pressure. So even if it seems like you are about to make an amazing move, stop for a second and think, maybe you are doing something stupid. Maybe you help your opponent to create some problems for you. Okay, now that I have improved my position to the maximum potential, I think I just want to exchange those queens so that, those rooks, so that my queen can be activated and come there. I don't want to exchange the queens. That would make it too simple for my opponent. He can just bring the key in. Yes, I do have my chances there, but I think if I can penetrate into his position with my queen, then together with the knight, it would be really unpleasant for him. Whereas my king is pretty safe. I just need to be careful not to blunder some perpetual checks here with queen c8, queen f5, that stuff. Rook e5, if you are wondering, doesn't really change anything. I just take it, and you cannot even take with the queen because of rook e8, and then you lose your rook. So you have to take it with the rook, but then I just continue my plan with rook e8. Yes, he takes himself, but it just helps me to go ahead with my plan. Like, what's the problem? Now the rook is hanging. Maybe he wants to play rook e5, and at least if I take, then his queen is controlling that open file, and that actually makes a lot of sense. No, he just takes. That I don't like, because now I control the open file. How do you... I think, yeah, the bishop is not hanging there, but I think queen to e2 is very annoying. Maybe his idea is just to go after those pawns, but yeah, he goes for it. But I think he's gonna be just checkmated. Queen e2, he takes, knight g4. Yes, he can even grab all of those pawns, and no question, like, he's crushing on the queen side, he would promote all of his pawns, but that would all happen after. And what happens before? Well, I'm gonna checkmate him, so there would be no time for him to promote his pawns. I mean, you don't expect me to be passive there, or like... By the way, queen a8 might not be that stupid. Yes, f3 though, I don't like it. I mean, actually, queen a8, f3, and then queen e8 back to open up his king like that feels very interesting. Why not? Because otherwise, if he just goes somewhere back, then I play queen to f3, knight to g4, and then it's just a checkmate. Even though like queen e2 seems to be so obvious, but you always think about the most active opportunities first. This move, queen a8, he cannot block the check with the queen. And all he can do, like the reasonable move, seems to be f3. But then I go back, and there is no way back for this queen. Like if I play that, it's also too late to go back because I'm attacking that pawn. I'm gonna just take it. Okay, which move is better? This is always a difficult question we have to answer. That I also threatened knight e3, not just taken, but knight e3 is basically a checkmate, right? Goes backwards, queen f1 checkmate. If he goes here, queen h5. No, that is just winning, like on the spot. And remember that perpetual check problem? From d8, you can never do that. You need to get to c8, which is pretty slow. So I'm gonna go ahead and play queen e2. Saying that, yeah, queen a8 was also very interesting. If that would be your choice, I'm okay with that. But queen e2 seems to be more straightforward, like knight g4. Maybe he can play h3, trying to stop my knight. But then again, that costs time. Like, first of all, I can even start grabbing his pawns, because I'm also attacking the bishop. Secondly, I can take that pawn to make this square on e4 available for my knight. But that is a little bit slower, so h3 might be interesting. Maybe from that perspective, queen a8 would have been more direct. I just didn't like the fact that this f3, then my knight cannot go forward before I grab that pawn somehow. Let's see. I think that my opponent underestimated all of those opportunities for me to create counterplay. He wasn't thinking, he was like, oh my god, I can go forward, I can attack, and he's even grabbing that pawn, completely blind to the threats that I am creating. How on earth can you do that? Maybe I know what he plans to do. After knight g4, he wants to give me a check, king h7, and then queen f4. And then feels like everything is great, but it's not great. Knight e3 check. If you go backwards, it's a checkmate. If you go to h3, I think it's still a checkmate. Queen h4, queen f5 check, g4. I mean, it feels like it's almost a checkmate. Anyway, I think I should go for it. Queen d3 is just not good enough, not important enough. We are going for a checkmate. Yeah, I think that is simply win on queen b8. He goes queen f4, I have knight e3 check. He goes here, I have queen f1 check. He goes king h4, and to say the least, I have g5, forking king and queen, just winning on the spot. That is good enough. Yeah, he's going exactly for that line. And he's like one move away from delivering a perpetual check. But you know, chess is a tragedy of one tempo. So we are the first one to deliver a checkmate or win a queen. I'm curious if there is a checkmate. King h3, king h5, queen here. Yeah, but then the only check is queen f5. He has to play that. But I don't see a checkmate. Queen f3, just queen g3. Yeah, that's not enough. That might be even losing, actually. But I have queen f1 as well. Cannot take with the pawn because of the pin. You can take with the queen, but that would result in the same problem, losing your queen. And f1. There is even one more winning variation, just knight g2. Forking the king and the queen, of course, is good enough. But g5, I like even more. Morton has got more than 300 ELO points thanks to my opening course. Check out his story, the link is in the description, and make sure to join 10-day opening mastery before the incredible offer is available. Right now you get 50% off and a full month of live coaching with me, where I'm gonna analyze your games. I'm gonna personally help you integrate this opening repertoire into your own games and make sure you don't make any horrible blunders, mistakes, and in general improve your chess so much. Okay, it's time to play g5 and win that queen. This is exactly how you beat everyone under 2000 ELO, and in this playlist you can learn so much more about this opening, how you handle all possible responses from the opponents.